Hello, I'm back with another book review. I will tell you that this one will have spoilers in it, but I'll let you know when they happen. This review is going to be for Ruth Ware's The It Girl. April Coutts-Clivejan was the first person Hannah Jones met at Oxford. Vivacious, bright, occasionally vicious, and the ultimate it girl, she quickly pulled Hannah into her dazzling orbit. Together, they developed a group of devoted and inseparable friends: Will, Hugh, Ryan, and Emily. During their first term. By the end of the second, April was dead. Now, a decade later, Hannah and Will are expecting their first child, and the man convicted of killing April, former Oxford porter John Neville, has died in prison. Relieved to have finally put the past behind her, Hannah's world is rocked when a young journalist comes knocking and presents new evidence that Neville may have been innocent. As Hannah reconnects with old friends and delves deeper into the mystery of April's death, she realizes that the friends she thought she knew all have something to hide, including a murder. Okay, so here is the cover of the book. It is honestly very boring. It's very boring. Very boring. Let's discuss. So overall, it's a good book. I would give it a B. I would give it a B. It doesn't, it's a good murder mystery book. It doesn't blow you out of the water like I feel like some of her other ones did. Like, I lost sleep to One by One, and I even lost some, of my free time. Like, I was determined to finish The Turn of the Key, In the Dark, Dark Wood. I was like following like this. This one's, I felt like it was longer than it should have been. It was a 17-hour listen. I listened to it on Audible or Overdrive. I didn't buy it. I rented it from the library. It's read by Imogen Church, who again knocks it out the park. Imogen Church is just, she's that girl for narrating. Knocks it out of the park. She does a really great job. Yeah. So as she's going to figure out who the real murderer is of her best friend, she learns all this stuff. Like, here comes some spoilers, so turn it off, right? Pregnancy, like, she literally goes through and accuses everyone. Like, she accuses this guy she was banging, who may have gotten her pregnant, because she used to play pranks on people all the time, which was weird because, so she makes a big deal about the pranks in the end, or the author makes a big deal about the pranks in the end, but you don't really, so like, she talks about April pranking people, but it is never really something where she's showing this is a pattern in April's behavior until it gets close to the end, which I thought was weird. Like, at the end of the book, it felt like everyone was making a big deal of April pranking people, and I was like, oh, this is the first time you're really making it seem like it was an issue towards the end of the book. And honestly, the pranks that she detailed, when you're getting the backstory of April's character, there was really only one prank. So that was weird, that the whole thing was people were tired of her using and pranking them. Okay. But she really goes through and she accuses all of her friends. She accuses the guy April was sleeping with because she pranked him with a pregnancy test. Turns out the pregnancy test was probably real. Then she accuses Emily, her other female friend, who really was a good friend to her this entire book. When the porter, she doesn't like the porter because he was like harassing her and weird. But when the porter like tackled her and like sexually assaulted her, Emily had her back. When the porter was just being weird, Emily had her back. So it seemed like Emily had her back in the book way more than her best friend April did, for her to turn around and be like, oh, well, April played a really mean prank on you, so you may be her killer. Like, so she did that, but she literally did that with all her friends. So she did that with Emily, she did it with Ryan, and then she even, in the end, she turns on her husband, and she thinks that because his alibi was, even though he was dating April at the time, So he was dating April, and that was okay. So here's another weird thing. He was dating April. April passed away, okay? So would you, even if you liked him, would you, as April's friend in her passing, date her ex? Yes or no? Because I thought that was weird. Like, I just don't think that I would have jumped into a relationship with this dude. I just don't think that I would have. It's just weird. It's weird, right? Like, and like she says, you know, it took time and he kept messaging her and he like came and found her after all the trauma or whatever. But I still think that's weird. I wouldn't have hooked up with him. That's just me. But they're like married and expecting a baby now. And she accuses him because Hugh, his best friend, said that he heard him in the room that night. And the whole time he had this alibi that he wasn't even there. So she's like, oh, that's a shaky alibi. It might have been my husband. Her husband, rightfully so, right, gets kind of pissed at her, but she takes it as he's threatening her and she runs away and she escapes to Hugh. Okay, pause here. So plot-wise, my opinion, okay, plot-wise, I think it would have made for a better ending if, here's my alternate ending suggestion that Ruth Ware doesn't give a shit about, but I'm going to give to you. I think it would have made a better ending and a better book if, at this point, she's accused Will, her husband, of killing April, and she is escaping to Hugh's house, okay? In the end, what Ruth Ware did was Hugh ended up, spoiler alert, Hugh ended up being the killer. And she never suspected Hugh the whole time because she was with Hugh when they discovered April. So she didn't think it was Hugh because he was there. She was with her when she found her dead, but it turns out April was pranking her. And when she ran to go get extra help, Hugh got pissed off for some shit April was doing to him, and he killed her then. So like, it was a prank, but then it turned into real life. Okay, so that's what happened. Here's what I wish had happened. And because like, as I'm reading this, it just pissed me the fuck off because she portrayed Hugh to be this like underdog, lovable character the whole book, and I got attached to that, and I would argue that I probably wasn't the only person. And I think it would have made for a better story if she had went with Will being the killer. Hear me out. I think would have made for a better ending if Will had been the killer. She'd escaped to Hugh's house, and then Hugh was basically confesses and is like, yeah, I know, that's my best friend. He was hiding in the room when I found her dead and I let him escape or something like that. I think that would have made for a better story. I don't know. I'm just not a fan of unrealistic happy endings, okay? So let me tell you what I mean. So she discovers it's Hugh. Hugh was getting ready to kill her because she keeps digging and going to the police. So she discovers it's Hugh. They're in the car. He's getting ready to push her off the cliff. Somehow, you know, she's called Will on the phone and Will's hearing the whole conversation and he comes speeding down in his motorcycle. He comes speeding down in his motorcycle to save her. And he and Hugh have this tussle on the beach. Hugh has a gun. Will gets shot. Hugh gets shot. Hugh is the one that dies. But Will makes it and they get to live happily ever after and have their baby. No! Trash! The whole ending was trash. Are you kidding me? It would have been better to me if Will was the killer. You're now married to a killer. Your best friend's ex, by the way. You're married to a killer. You send him to jail. The cops find out. You went to Hugh for help. Hugh tells you his involvement too, right? He let Will get away. Hugh gets like some sort of punishment. Now your baby daddy's in jail and you have to raise the baby alone, and you know that he killed your best friend so that they could have been together because they were both like crushing on each other while she was alive. That would have been a better ending. I hated this fairy tale ending, bro. I hated it so much. And as soon as I saw the direction she was going with it, so there's a part where like she's like, oh, my tea tastes funny, it has an aftertaste. Oh, my water tastes funny, it has a weird aftertaste. That's when I knew Hugh was drugging her, and I was like, oh, I see where you're going with this. Hugh is the killer. And I hated that. It felt like such a cheap write-up to blame it on the alone character. Like, Ryan had a family. Emily was like back at the school. Like, everyone had these happy lives, and it just felt like she didn't want to ruin like the happy character almost. I mean, well, they weren't happy. They all had their shit, but it still felt like Hugh's character was the one who would have had the least disruptions to his life from dying and or going to jail, which he ends up dying, right? But hated the ending. Trash. So I posted, so for those of you who are here from my Instagram, when I posted that reel, just what I thought. Trash. Like, I was so pissed off. It could have been the ending could have been so much better, but it is still a fun ride. Definitely check it out. I mean, I would have bought it, but I'm a cheap girl, so if you want to buy it, I would, I wouldn't be against it, so to say. And then yeah, it was still a good ride, but I hated the ending. It was too fairy tale. Oh my gosh, your boyfriend comes speeding down the highway on his motorbike to fight your killer. Ooh, to save your pregnant baby. Girl, bye. The ending was not it, girl. The ending was not it, girl. But, I've rambled on for 11 minutes and 42 seconds, so I'm going to turn this off. Write in the comments what you thought about it. Subscribe to my channel. Like and share with your friends. All that stuff, girl. Bye.